Well, it's a big day and a very important day in South Africa with the start of the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry. Now, the commission is investigating serious claims of corruption, criminal activity and political interference in the justice system. Security is very tight, we can tell you that at this moment, with police and guards ensuring order. KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi is expected to be the first witness. His testimony has attracted strong public and media interest, and it could set the tone for the inquiry and reveal key details about possible abuse of power at the highest levels. Now, colleague Ayanda Nyathi is there monitoring proceedings and joins us now live. But also this hour on the show, we have Corbin August there in the Western Cape monitoring those developments coming out of the Western Cape, as today marks the beginning of the taxi route closures in the Western Cape. There on the pulse of it is Corbin August, but also Kenny Mapanga monitoring another part of the top story that we're watching for you this hour, and that's the Madlanga Commission that is happening there in Pretoria. So let's first start with Ayanda Nyathi there. So Ayanda, the big day is finally upon us. Good morning to you.
It certainly is, Mkhwanazi. We've been counting down to this moment for quite some time, and you'll remember, of course, there's been a stop-start affair before getting us here. We're coming to you live from the Bridget Mabandla Justice College, named after the ambassador herself, who I think, ironically, if for lack of a better term, was being lauded for the contribution she's made to the country's constitutional framework. And I suppose it's a bit poetic in some ways that we find ourselves here, given, what is ultimately at stake if this Commission of Inquiry will certainly meet the kind of expectations that have been laid out for it. Since Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi stood at that podium in Durban on the 6th of July and essentially set in motion the unprecedented series of events that have ultimately culminated in this moment. So much has been said about the terms of reference, whether or not this is actually binding, or the findings and recommendations are binding. But ultimately, some people will tell you, at least some commentators have mentioned, that it is a battle for the heart and soul of this country. The kind of allegations that Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi has made have certainly set tongues wagging, and now there's all kinds of hope and anticipation that this Commission of Inquiry will ultimately see through to the investigations that it essentially has been tasked with doing. The SABC News channel has been stationed here since early this morning, and as you mentioned, there's been a full police presence right here. Security is tight. These hearings are actually open to the media, but from my vantage point of police, I'll be very honest, haven't really been able to spot any of those members of the public who are set to make their way in. And of course, the inquiry itself is set to begin in just about 55 minutes time. That's when, if things go according to plan, and Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi should be seated, and in fact we should get the ball rolling. But of course, the SABC News channel has got the story covered for you from a number of vantage points. Kenny Mapanga has been here before the sun even rose, and she's now actually inside the auditorium where all of that action is going to take place. And Kenny, if you're able to hear me, frankly, a sea of cameras will be fixed on Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, hopefully in less than an hour's time, when he arrives where you're at.
Indeed, Ayanda, good morning once again to the viewers. In less than an hour, you will see KZN top cop, that is Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, take his seat in the witness box and give his version of events under oath. You may remember that he introduced this topic in a public press briefing where he made very serious allegations against key state institutions and organized crime syndicates in this country. We'll hear him get into depth into those allegations as he presents his evidence over the next few days. But let's set the scene with Jeremy Michaels, the spokesperson of the Commission, as to how this will be made and where can we expect various parties to be placed in this auditorium here in Pretoria. I'm going to ask Jeremy just to come closer to me as he explains the venue. You can come closer, Jeremy, here. You could start with the witness box. When Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi walks in, where can the public expect him to be giving his evidence? Then the actual Commission's chair as well, where they'll be seated, the evidence leaders, where they'll be placed, and how we expect the procedure to follow once we start at 10 a.m.
Well, Kenny, let me say it's been a big build-up over the last few weeks to the first public hearing of the Judicial Commission of Inquiry chaired by Justice Mbuyiseli Madlanga. As you say, in the witness box and arising from his allegations at that press conference on the 6th of July will be Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi in the witness box here. If you look over there to the three chairs, so the chairperson, Justice Madlanga, will be, of course, sitting in the middle, flanked by his two commissioners, Advocate Sesi Baloy, SC, and Advocate Sandile Komalo, SC. And then over here, excuse me, and you can see some of the evidence leaders here already. So they'll be seated over here. And then we can see that some members of the public are trickling in, but there is a huge contingent of media already and have been broadcasting from here. You will attest since very early this morning.
All right, thank you very much, Jeremy, for that slight preview. As you speak about the public, I'm going to let you go while we head up to surf this venue, and I'll ask my colleague Kwazi to make it up with me. As you can see, the first few benches are dedicated to the media that have been given access to these public hearings. Of course, not every portion of these hearings will be open to the public, but at least this opening testimony will, with regards to the Lieutenant General and the allegations that he's making. Now, if you look up at the top, those are the benches that have been made available to members of the public who want to come and sit into these hearings and get a gist of the evidence that will be presented by Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi. Of course, this can accommodate about 300 members, but as you can see, not quite the numbers that was expected yet, but we do see members of the public, and I guess we can get a little bit of sentiments from members of the public as to why they've chosen to come to these proceedings and what are their expectations following the Madlanga Commission's work, which is expected to give a preliminary report in 3 months and finish its work within 6 months. You can start by giving us your name and what are your expectations for this commission.
Dumelang, my name is Ntabeleng Karabo. Why not? We're here as the students and members of the public. We attended today to find out how the commission and the law works in practice. I believe it is a valuable learning, and we're just here to find out and hopefully get more clarity about the allegations Mr. Mkhwanazi made. And that's all.
All right, thank you. That's a young member of the public there just giving us her expectations of getting some clarity regarding those very serious allegations made that threaten national security. I'm going to try to speak to some more members of the public. Sir, are we able to approach you? You're live on the agenda. We wanted to get your name and your interest in attending the public hearings of the Madlanga Commission.
Ambushed. My name is Kenneth Mkhele. I'm a civic organization leader. So my interest here is that we need to get the truth about what really happened and the scourge of the allegations and how the country will recover post-peace. Yes.
All right, as you can hear, Ayanda, the cries are very simple. South Africans simply want the truth about these very serious allegations made about alleged organized crime syndicates and their alleged infiltration of key state institutions in our criminal justice system. I understand that my colleague Ayanda is stationed outside with political editor Mzondile Mbenje to carry on this conversation. Over to you in studio.
Yeah, absolutely, Kenny. And of course, we've moved to a different position here at the Bridget Mabandla Justice College. Tell you what, it's already a scorcher of a morning. And I guess in some ways, some people will suggest that this may be a signal of the heat that is likely to take place inside that venue, where, of course, we're expecting at any moment now the arrival of Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, the man at the center of the series of events that have unfolded since his bombshell briefing on the 6th of July. What many people thought, of course, was going to be an ordinary briefing, certainly setting in motion what we've seen, including stay-at-home orders, litigation, down to the 11th hour. Just yesterday, we heard that Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi himself is now suing forensic investigator, that's Mr. O'Sullivan, for about 5 million rand, citing defamation because of the remarks that he had made, that's O'Sullivan, to Mkhwanazi, those counter accusations that the man who is supposedly lifting the lid on corruption is himself embroiled in some kind of skullduggery. But we'll see in just a moment how all of this is going to unfold when Mkhwanazi speaks under oath. But there are multiple kind of possible ramifications that are going to flow from this unprecedented inquiry. And of course, people are watching very closely what the political fallout may entail. It's a good time to bring in our politics editor here at the SABC News Channel, Nhlanhla Mbeje, who's been watching these developments for quite some time and is with us now just a stone throw away from the entrance itself. The media is out, security is here, the sun is out. It's just a matter of time till we finally get to the heart, really, of those claims, hopefully.
Indeed, it's as dramatic as that press conference where everyone was like, what is happening? So that's exactly what's happening here. Of course, you've said it well, it's a matter of time before we now hear the substance of some of those allegations. Remember, those were just allegations, but of course it touched on so many people, as you've alluded in your intro. So now the opportunity before a platform that can allow you to ventilate everything. Remember, even General Mkhwanazi himself, when he was addressing that conference, he kept on saying, so we can go beyond what we are giving, so if given the opportunity. So here is the opportunity now. The man who started it all will be the first witness and then will be able to tell us what is happening. But what I'm thinking will happen, obviously based on his presentation here, is that he, outside of what he said, may need to give a bit more substance into some of those allegations. Of course, there will be questions that will be asked. It is possible that it's not necessarily the only ones that we know that could be implicated even further. That is why this is such a high-stakes commission. So it can actually ruffle feathers in so many ways. So we want to hear, we want to see, and then of course General Mkhwanazi will have to provide some of the evidence to some of the claims that he made.
Yeah, and he was unequivocal, that's General Mkhwanazi, about who he reckons is involved. He said there are politicians, MPs currently in Parliament who are supposedly embroiled in what has taken place in the SAPS over the last little while. Help us kind of map out what you reckon may be the political ramifications of that. And I ask this in a context where, let's face it, there are skeptics around there who believe this is nothing but an expensive talk shop and ultimately won't lead to real accountability.
So some of those names of the politicians that may be mentioned, so it's not just about hearsay now. If I say Ayanda did A, B, C or D, I must be able to prove that indeed it's him who did it. And then he probably will be given the opportunity to rebut it or clarify why he did that in that circumstances. Who are you associated with? So was it criminal intent? What exactly was happening? So what was the context? So this platform, Ayanda, creates that possibility that no one will say, no, I'm being accused of something I know nothing about. You will have the opportunity to clarify if you feel you've been implicated wrongly. Here is the platform. So this platform for me really is an opportunity for all those who feel there are wrongdoings in their responsibilities, and then they want to get it right. So here is the platform. Do it. And those who perhaps are being implicated in these matters, they must come and answer for themselves, because South Africans are looking up to these people, particularly because this is a justice system. This touches on the national security of the country. We cannot have a situation where an impression is created that the most important aspect of our state is in crisis. Because if that is in crisis, what about you and me, the ordinary men and women in the street? So we need to get that one right. So the factions within the police, if they are factions, are they factions? So are those factions working for us as a country? Because at the end of the day, it's not about them. It's not about them as individuals. It's about them having been given the responsibility to look after this asset, which is South Africa. So all of us have different responsibilities as we execute them. So we must ensure that the bigger picture, which is South Africa, is very well taken care of. But if those who have been given the opportunity and then there's doubt, what about us, the ordinary South Africans? This commission must be able to assist in that regard. I know South Africans are very skeptical because of the past history of the Commission of Inquiry. So let's see. I hope something different will come out here.
Yeah, you speak about optics. Many people say this is about the battle of the heart and soul of South Africa itself, right? That's how important the criminal justice system is. It comes as no surprise that the president himself has also had a word or two to say in not only establishing this commission, but also made commentary or spoke out when there was a back and forth about those 121 dockets, which we understand are now back in KwaZulu-Natal. For people who are trying to kind of place just how deep all of this runs, at least from what we've heard so far, help us kind of understand that, because there is something to be said that even the number one citizen wasn't silent in the wake of that briefing.
The good thing is that those dockets, which have been a bone of contention for some time, will be part of this commission. So whatever is contained there, will now be at least be in front of the commission. But perhaps the unfortunate side is that at some point, Ayanda, the commission will not necessarily be open to the media or to the public for reasons that it may touch on the national security. But we trust that those who will be processing that will still be able to obviously make proper decisions based on the kind of information they'll be given. So they will be here, those dockets. So we may not know what is contained there in terms of the whole picture, but the fact of the matter is that if there are matters that need to be pursued, they need to be pursued. And the right platform, perhaps to ventilate some of those, it's here. And then, of course, those that need to be taken to court must be taken to court. So it's not about now just talking, so you can talk, back it up with evidence. This is the platform.
All right. Zandile Mbeche, thanks very much indeed for speaking to us. Tell you what, it's a marathon, not a sprint. So we'll have many opportunities, of course, to continue outlining and peeling off the different layers that make up this really complex moment. Let's face it, the very heart and soul of the country, as I mentioned, according to some people, is what is at stake here, especially when you consider who is implicated in those really damning allegations. The police minister is currently at home. The deputy commissioner as well, especially after that court bid that didn't go his way. Vusimuzi Nhlanhla has come up. Today he'll be in court to find out whether he'll be granted bail on a separate matter. A Brown Mkhwanazi's name, and the list really goes on and on. Stick around. The SABC News channel will certainly have you covered as we continue making sense of this unprecedented moment as it continues to unfold.